Welcome to the Clique podcast. I'm Dani Watson, a mindset and manifestation expert and founder of the Clique, a company that helps women overcome their fears and limiting beliefs to create a life and business that they love. Within this podcast, I will help you get clear on what you want, identify the blocks that are holding you back, transform your mindset and raise your vibration so that you can co-create magic with the universe. If you are looking to design a life that truly sets your soul on fire and manifest more success and abundance, then you are in the right place. Hello ladies, and welcome to a brand new episode. And I guess also a little bit of a welcome back from me. I know that it's been a hot minute since I've recorded a new podcast. Fortunately, I've had my wonderful assistant Bansi putting together some best of episodes to fill in the gaps, so I hope you have been enjoying those. I'll just fill you in on what's been going on in my life, because that was one hell of a Mercury in retrograde. So we've just come out of a Mercury retrograde. And normally I never really kind of feel much of an impact, but I don't know whether it was coincidental or if it was because of Mercury being in retrograde, but it just felt like one of those months where everything that could have possibly gone wrong went wrong. I can laugh about it now, but honestly, I was a hot mess for that month. I'm normally somebody who's pretty calm and zen, and I felt like I was completely losing the plot at some points. So all of our kids got sick. I got sick. I started off with really super bad hay fever, which I never normally get. Everything is blooming in our garden. We have so many different plants. And so I had hay fever like I've never had it before. And then my son brought home some horrible sickness bug from nursery, and I got sick with it as well. Really wasn't fun seeing my son so poorly. That's never nice. And it all kind of started, the sickness bug started where we were actually out for a day at a beach club. And we kind of all started to sort of not feel so great whilst we were out at this beach club, which wasn't ideal. And then my son started throwing up at the beach club. So I was like, right, okay, this is it. We've got to go. Get in the car to go. And my husband noticed that we've got a flat tire. So we ended up on the side of the road in the baking heat, all of us out of the car with my husband trying to change the tire. Thank God he was there, because I would have had no idea what to do. And things just basically spiraled downwards from there. So I want to kind of really give you a very honest and transparent overview of this, because I think it's important to understand that shit happens, basically. Shit happens, and I just had a very shit time for a month, and I dealt with it in, the least spiritual, calm way I possibly could. I was, as I said, I lost the plot. I was getting really angry and frustrated with everybody. I was stressed and not my normal self, but you know what? Every now and again, you're going to go through parts of life where everything that you know about mindset and meditation and staying calm and, surrendering to what you can't control, it goes out the window. It's a part of being human. Even though we can know and have access to all of this amazing wisdom, there's going to be times in our life when it just completely goes out of the window, and that's okay. But I'm here now, out the other side. To top things off, we're actually having our house renovated. So we have moved everything from the upstairs floor, the top floor. Our home's basically across 3 levels. The top floor, we've moved everything from there, and we are living in the sort of middle floor. But there's a lot of banging and commotion going on. There's dust everywhere. No idea why we didn't decide to just move out and rent somewhere, but hey ho. And so recording this podcast has also been quite difficult, because normally I do a lot of my work from home. I've got an office here, and it's banging every 2 seconds. So that's my update, guys. Anyway, I want to basically bring you in to a bit of it's going to be a masterclass that I'm hosting. The date for it actually hasn't been set in stone yet, but at the time of this being released, it will be in the next few weeks that masterclass gets released. I'm going to be hosting it live on Facebook. And it is essentially going to be an introductory masterclass to my She Leads Feminine Leadership program. Now, I briefly mentioned this on the podcast a few weeks ago, but I actually want to share a little bit more about what's going to go into this introductory masterclass. So the She Leads Feminine Leadership program is essentially for business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs, leaders, coaches, and it's really about helping you create exponential growth across all areas of your life, your business, your finances, exponential growth personally, professionally, spiritually, in terms of your money, but doing so whilst honoring your feminine energy. So without having to struggle or force things or push for things, without having to act from a place of fear, scarcity, panic, being able to create this wonderfully abundant life from a place of ease and grace and calm. And it's funny I say this because I've obviously just told you about this crazy manic month that I've had. So I want to kind of preface what I've just said by saying that being in your feminine and being a feminine leader does not necessarily mean the absence of the masculine, nor does it necessarily mean that, we've got this expectation on ourselves to always be so calm and graceful with how we go about life, because there will be times when everything that just goes out the window, and that is okay. But this masterclass then, it's essentially an introduction to that program, the She Leads Feminine Leadership program. The program is offered both as a private one-on-one experience and as a group experience. And I will be sharing more details about the program itself during the masterclass. So I would recommend, if you're not doing so yet, follow me on Instagram, because I will be sharing the details of that masterclass there. So Dani_Watson_coaching. Now, I wanted to dive into a specific topic. I'm going to go into this more in the masterclass as well, but I really wanted to share about it on this podcast because it's a really interesting topic. It comes into the She Leads program, and this is around very much tied into the relationship that you have with others. So a big part of the success that we're able to create, financially, personally, professionally, a lot of it is down to our relationship with ourselves, but the relationship that we have with others also has a big part to play as well. And what I am diving into in the She Leads program is the relationship that we've had with our family, specifically from our childhood ages, and how that has played a role in our adult life. And one prominent theme that comes up here is the feeling of being safe. Okay, feeling safe. Now, what I mean here by feeling safe is, first of all, feeling safe to be seen. So feeling safe to really be visible, and really be visible authentically as yourself. Feeling safe to be able to show up as who you are without, worrying, without feeling fearful about being judged or criticized or being rejected even. So that's one area of feeling safe. The other area of feeling safe is feeling safe to relax. Okay, now both of these topics very much tie in with feminine leadership, because the feminine leader is able to show up completely unapologetically as she is. Okay, she's able to be true to herself. She knows who she is. She knows who her authentic self is, and she is not afraid to let her light shine brightly. She is not afraid to show up completely as she is, get visible, be, the light that others need in the world. The feminine leader is not afraid of that. Okay? She's also not afraid to completely let go and surrender. What I absolutely love about really embracing your feminine energy as a business owner is that ability to completely relax and go with the flow and enjoy the work that you do. Allow things to be easy, allow things to be fun, allow things to be, relaxing. And also allowing yourself to take time off without feeling guilty. To be able to completely slow down and stop without worrying about, is my business going to suffer? without that constant kind of niggle, oh, I should be doing something, I could be doing more, there's more for me to do. So I want to kind of dive into these a little bit on the podcast as well, because for me, these are some of the most important parts of the She Leads program. It's interesting because when it comes to especially conversations about money, the first thing that comes up is, your own money beliefs, right? The relationship that you have with money mindset work. Maybe it comes up things like, okay, well, the action steps I need to take, the latest marketing strategies that will help me generate more sales. And these conversations are important, and they are filtered into my She Leads program. But actually, something I think that's overlooked from wealth and success is actually that relationship you have with others. Because our lives don't exist in a vacuum, right? It's not just us that we're, responsible for creating the life that we want. It's how we interact with others in the world that also has a really big influence. Again, especially from those early childhood ages. So, feeling safe to be seen then. I'm sure that many of you will resonate with this, because this was definitely something I experienced. Not so much now, although there's still moments where I feel this fear really does creep in. This feeling safe to be seen. Being seen, but being seen without wearing a mask. Now, sometimes we might convince ourselves, I am 100% confident about showing up for myself, showing up for my audience, getting visible online. I can do this. But the way in which we are showing up, we are still wearing a mask of who we feel like we should be, a mask of who we feel society wants us to be, a mask of who we feel we need to be seen as successful, to be seen as inspirational, to be seen as a thought leader. And if we are completely honest with ourselves, we are often hiding parts of ourselves from the world that we don't want the world to see. Now, I'm a huge believer that we can share our lives online. We can share, ourselves and our story, and we can get visible. Yet at the same time, we can maintain some elements of privacy as well. I share parts of my life. I share obviously things on this podcast. I share stuff on my Instagram. But I'm a very private person, and there's a lot of my life that I just do not share. So I don't necessarily believe that being authentic and, unapologetically yourself means having to give all of you to the world. Because there's parts of you in your life that you will want to keep for yourself or your family, and that's sacred. There's lots of things within my life that I've just chosen not to share. Not because I'm ashamed of them, not because, I think, people wouldn't want to hear about this, or it's just that there's some parts that I don't feel like I want to kind of give away every piece of me. So we can still be unapologetically ourselves, for our audience, whilst still maintaining elements of our own privacy and keeping some things, just for ourselves. But it's important that the parts that we do show are unapologetically ourselves. We do feel like we are able to be truly who we are, and we feel absolutely safe to be seen, without that fear of criticism, rejection, judgment. And how this ties into family relationships is often, based upon our experiences from childhood. So a good example of this, when I was younger, I was a performer. I loved putting on shows and doing dance routines. My poor younger sisters would just get dragged along with this. So if ever I was, doing a Spice Girls routine, they would obviously have to step in and be Scary Spice and Sporty Spice, because obviously I was Baby Spice. So I loved putting on these shows, and I loved, entertaining people, and I loved making people laugh. And I remember from being a young age, just having this really silly way about my personality. And I really noticed that I'd suppressed that a lot over the years. And I kind of was thinking, well, what is it? What's going on here? And I realised that it was this it comes back to this feeling of safety. And I had this one memory. I was going back into sort of old childhood memories, and there was this one memory, and it was my mum saying to me, I must have only been about sort of 6 maybe, saying, oh, your grandma Watson thinks you're a show-off. So my grandma that was my dad's dad. And I just remember being at her house and kind of wanting to do this show for everybody and getting everyone to sit down. And I was called bossy because I was telling everyone where to sit, like acting as if they were in, Wembley Arena or something. Like, you're going to sit there, you're going to sit there. And yeah, I had this memory of my mum saying, your grandma thinks you're a show-off and you're bossy. And obviously as children, we just take anything that an adult says as gospel. We're like, oh, okay, well, this is what I've been told, therefore must be, who I am. And so it's almost like this fear then creeps in of, well, I'm not going to be accepted if I show up in this way. And obviously acceptance very much ties in with feeling safe, feeling secure. If we're not accepted by our family, especially as children, it's that feeling that, well, who's going to look after us? Who's going to care for us? Who's going to love us? So it very much becomes like, I am not safe. I am actually not safe if I show up exactly how I am, because I need to be accepted, to be, to be protected and to be, be a part of my community, my family tribe. So maybe you've experienced this in your life before, where there's a niggling feeling of like you can't be who you are, or you can't show up in, the most powerful way, or there's parts of you that you want to hide or conceal, or, you feel like, oh, if I show up in this way, like, will everybody get it? People don't understand me. People want to see me in a certain way. Whatever that is, if you filter yourself as you show up, or you are showing up still wearing that mask, there's always going to be a part of you that is missing from the equation, parts of you that you're hiding. And then when we wonder why we're not able to fully attract everything that we're meant for, it's because we're not allowing ourselves to fully be who we are meant to be. In order to attract everything wholly, we need to be ourselves wholly. And again, remember I said we can still maintain privacy. We can still have the parts that we don't share with the world, but the parts that we do, we want to make sure that we are allowing ourselves to be fully who we are, so that we do feel whole, okay? And that's important, because it's not just about, okay, well, this is going to have a big impact on my business and maybe my finances. It's about how you feel through that process as well, because you could have the money, you could have the success, but there may be a part of you that just still doesn't feel whole. There's that constant feeling of not enoughness, and that is tied to the fact that deep down you don't feel safe to be fully seen, and therefore there's parts of you that you are concealing, hiding away, and it's like you're constantly having to live your life through this lens of what you feel like society is going to accept. So when you get this, and when you start to really feel completely safe to be seen as you are, honestly, the freedom that you will feel, and the wholeness that you will feel, and the joy that you will feel through your work, regardless of your results, that's the important thing, regardless of your results, it will feel amazing. And that's important, this regardless of your results, because your business is going to go through ups and downs. There's going to be months where maybe you can't explain it, but you just have one of those months where just things don't go your way. And the natural reaction to that is, oh, it's something that I've done. It's that feeling of not enoughness again. And actually, if you are feeling completely whole within yourself, you can have a bit of a blip, and it's not going to affect you emotionally, personally. You're still going to show up for your work in a really powerful way. Now, the other feeling safe is the feeling safe to relax. A feminine leader is able to create from a place of ease and calm, and is able to fully surrender, and is able to fully relax and honour her need for self-care, honour her boundaries, prioritise herself. And so often we want to do this, right? We want to be able to fully relax. Maybe it's booking a massage or booking a holiday, or saying, you know what, I'm going to take a whole week off. We often have the good intentions behind relaxing, but maybe struggle to completely switch off in the moment. And again, this is something that I've experienced. Specifically, going on holidays, I'm like, oh, I'm going to completely take time off. Yet, it was almost like, well, I could be doing something. I'm talking about holidays now pre-kids, because holidays now with kids to kind of do any sort of work is impossible. But pre-kids, especially if I was just, lying on the beach for a day thinking, I don't have to do anything here. My business is taking care of itself. I've got the systems in place to mean it works without me. But there was a part of me that just couldn't just fully switch off. I was thinking, I could listen to a podcast on this, or I could start reading this book. And it was just that real struggle to fully switch off. Okay, and so maybe you experience this as well. Maybe it's a feeling of guilt if you're not doing something. Maybe it's the feeling of fear or panic. Let's say you took a whole week and you were not allowed to think about your work, your business, your role as a leader. You weren't allowed to think about any of it. Do you think you could do that? Do you think you could fully disconnect from your work? Or would there be a part of you that would still think about it, even if it's every now and again? Okay? So that feeling of feeling safe to relax, rather, again, this stems from, majority of the time, like with anything, it stems from our childhood and that family relationship where you've experienced explosive parenting. So explosive parenting, it doesn't necessarily need to be that you're in a particularly violent home or aggressive home. It could just be a parent getting frustrated at the other parent. Pretty much every single person will experience explosive parenting at some point in their childhood, even if they've got a super calm parent. I will give it to myself, I am pretty super calm most of the time in terms of how I parent. I'm pretty relaxed. I try and keep sort of a very sort of calm atmosphere in the house, even when the kids are, drawing on the walls and just generally being savages. Most of the time I manage to keep it pretty cool. But there is times when, of course, I get frustrated, especially when I'm sleep deprived and, my 2-year-old's just thrown all the food on the floor that's just been cleaned and, they're just going wild. There's times when I can feel the stress boiling up in me and I've shouted. And I remember when I was thinking about doing this podcast, and I was like, do I really want to start telling people that I shouted at my kids? But you know what? I feel like, again, this is something that maybe you guys have experienced, those of you that do have kids. But I think it's important sometimes that we are really transparent and honest with our audience, especially when things aren't going right. Because, even, again, if we can have all of this wisdom and we can normally have really inspiring routines and, be somebody that's really calm and able to just surrender and let go. But there's going to be times when that just all goes out the window. So I, my kids have experienced explosive parenting, despite the fact that, me and my husband are both pretty calm with how we parent and pretty sort of, never really raise our voices. As a child, for me, I experienced pretty explosive parenting. My dad was working away quite a lot. And my mum will even admit this herself. There was times, I've got 2 sisters. My dad was often away for very, very large chunks of time. My 2 sisters are very close in age, so they're 16 months apart. So they were both in nappies, and my mum was essentially parenting the 3 of us, very feisty daughters, by herself. And so there were definitely times when, she shouted. She absolutely lost it at us. And I have some of these moments very, very clearly. And we were never really allowed to just sit around and kind of watch TV and do nothing. We always had to be helping out in the house, or we had to be outside, or we had to be doing stuff. And it was almost like if we did sort of sit down and relax, we would get told off. And that's just kind of, how my mum was raising us. But as a child, again, when we experience this explosive parenting, a parent shouting, we create this defense mechanism where we become hypervigilant. Okay, so we are in this kind of constant state of, fight or flight, so that we are prepared to take ourselves out of the firing line whenever we need to. Okay, so what then happens is this becomes our habitual way of being, in this sort of hypervigilant state where we're kind of constantly on guard. And then as adults, we then wonder, well, why can't I fully relax? Why can't I switch off? And I think a part of this as well is societal upbringing as well, like society telling you like you've got to constantly be doing, like our productivity, our success is often measured in our productivity, and we wear busyness as a badge of honor. So I think sort of societal messaging as well plays a part in this. But coming back to this, our relationship with our family, explosive parenting and that kind of relationship that we have with our parents as children can often create this feeling of, I am not safe to just fully relax and let go. It's constantly being on guard. So then, when this ties into feminine leadership, the feminine leader needs to be able to fully relax. Not just relax a little bit or make it look as if she's relaxing because she's lay on a beach, but fully disconnect, fully switch off. And that, for many of us, is very, very challenging. But there is a way through that. When you can repair those sort of childhood memories of, experiencing rather explosive parenting and not feeling safe, when you can kind of go back into the root cause of that feeling unsafe and heal at that point, there is so much more available to you. Okay, life becomes so much more expansive because you are then able to fully let go. And that's really, for me, a big part of what being a feminine leader is all about. Not just letting go a little bit, fully letting go. And not worrying, not stressing, not feeling like, I'm going to get caught off guard here, or something's going to suffer, or I'm going to struggle, or my business is going to suffer, that feeling of guilt. Letting go of all of that. Just think about that for a second. How much more freeing would that be? And how much more exciting is that to know that actually when you are able to get this, when you are able to feel fully safe to relax and do so, that your business will actually grow tenfold. That's the amazing thing. When you get this and your beliefs align with this, your beliefs tell you, when I fully relax, my business grows. Just sit and process that belief for a second. I believe that when I fully relax, fully let go, my business skyrockets. Does that belief sit with you at the moment? It didn't for me for a long time. There's no way I would ever consider that fully relaxing meant my business taking off. The opposite for me was true. But now I get this, and now I fully integrated this work, and now I fully believe it. I know this to be true, and I know this can be true for you as well. So these are just two of the themes that I'm going to I'll cover them a little bit more again in the masterclass, but there's lots more that I'm going to be incorporating into that masterclass. So I'm super, super excited to be sharing it with you. It's going to be a free masterclass. It's essentially the first introductory masterclass to my She Leads feminine leadership program, which I am honestly... The amount of time that I've put into this program, it took a lot longer than what I initially thought it would to kind of get everything together. Just because I feel like this is some of my most important work. And I know how much this work has really changed my life, not just for me, but for my family, for my clients, for, the people that I lead. And I'm just so excited for everybody else to be able to experience this as well. So yes, make sure you're following me on Instagram, Dani_Watson_coaching, because I will be releasing the details of that masterclass there. And obviously if you're on our email list as well, you'll also be sent details via email. But yes, it feels good to be back. I'm recording this in my garden because, there's nowhere to go in my house. It's a quiet space. So apologies if you can hear like crazy banging as well in the background. But yes, thank you ladies for tuning in as always. And for those of you who are watching the masterclass, I will see you there. Lots of love, ladies. If you're wanting to build your own successful online coaching business, make sure to check out Freedom, Abundance and Impact, our free 10-day business and mindset course for coaches and aspiring coaches. To access, simply head to wearetheclique.com and click free course in the menu.